Madam President, please.
Is it true that androids make up 60% of the armed forces? Is our army still able to ensure our homeland security? One last question, Madam President. One last question, please. Madam President, please.
What's going to happen to CyberLife? Will androids be banned definitively? One last question, Madam President. One last question, please. Madam President! Please? Please?
Is it true that the androids could hack our IT systems, like nuclear power plants and military bases? One last question, Madam President. One last question, please. Madam President, please.
A convoy of medical cobalt is reported missing. Army weapons stores are also said to have been robbed. Can you confirm these reports? One last question, Madam President. One last question, please. Are you going to ban the production of androids? Madam President, please.
Madam President, public opinion seems to be particularly hostile to the deviants because of their violent behavior. Can you give us your perspective on that? Madam President, public opinion seems to have become increasingly favorable to the deviants, particularly since they've adopted a peaceful approach. How do you feel about this? One last question, Madam President. One last question, please. Madam President, please.
We neutralized all military androids the second their reliability came into doubt. We have called the National Guard for reinforcement. Our armed forces are fully operational and are able to ensure our homeland security. That's absurd. There's absolutely no connection. Androids are not living beings. All we are doing is destroying defective machines. We're working very closely with CyberLife to neutralize all deviants. I won't make any comments about anything else until we've dealt with the Android question. We don't have the full reports at this time, but if so, I can assure you they will soon be apprehended and destroyed. All androids working on sensitive sites have been neutralized, and all IT systems have been suspended to avoid any risks of hacking. The situation is under control. The FBI raided an abandoned freighter in Detroit at 10:45 p.m. yesterday. Several thousand androids were destroyed or captured. Our forces are now combing the streets to ensure that none got through the net. We are going to find them one by one and destroy them. That's ridiculous. Next question, please. The deviant that is known as Marcus has not been located yet, but we will soon track it down and neutralize it. We have received confirmation that the deviant known as Marcus was, in fact, destroyed during the assault. The deviant leader has not been located yet, but we will soon track it down and neutralize it. The deviants have proved to be very violent so far. They have demonstrated that they are a menace to society, and I have every intention of eliminating them. Public opinion is one thing, the security of the state is another. These deviants are dangerous, and my highest priority is to protect the American people. At 6 a.m. this morning, a national curfew was declared. Civilian movement will be strictly controlled. The right to assembly is suspended. All electronic communications are restricted, and I have granted enhanced powers to our security agencies. In addition to these measures, all androids must be handed over to the authorities immediately. Temporary camps are being set up in all our major cities to contain and destroy them. My highest priority and responsibility as President of the United States of America is to guarantee the security of all Americans, which means stopping the deviant menace at all cost. And this is exactly what I am going to do. I am now asking all civilians to cooperate with the authorities and rest assured that everything in our power is being done to guarantee the security of our nation. Thank you. That will be all. I have no information on that at this time.
Is it true that a large number of deviants are still on the loose? One last question, Madame President. One last question, please. Madame President, please.
What can you tell us about the assault that happened last night? One last question, Madam President. One last question, please. Madam President, please.
Has the leader of the deviants been apprehended? One last question, Madam President. Madam President! Please!
Some say these camps awaken painful memories from human history. How do you respond to that? One last question, Madam President. One last question, please. Madam President, please. Over here, please.
Many believe that androids are a new form of intelligent life. Do you have any comment? One last question, Madam President. One last question, please.